Joining me now, we have Nate Langston Palmer, the man, the myth, and the legend behind of what you just saw. Hi, how are you, Nate?
I'm great. How are you, Jada?
I'm doing
Thank
great.
you
Thanks
for
for
having
joining.
me on.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, I personally have tons of questions. I am not a native Washingtonian, so I'm
Mm,
totally new to Beat Your Feet. And I've noticed these installations myself, even prior to today's conversation.
mm,
So why don't you tell me a little bit about, the backstory? I know it's a project that initially started in 2019, right?
mhm. Yeah, it is. It is. So I first started photographing this project in 2019 when I met a group of the dancers in Columbia Heights. So I grew up um, kind of all around in different places around DC, but moved around DC as a kid. But one of the main neighborhoods I grew up in was Petworth, like right between Petworth and Columbia Heights. So I had just moved back to DC after a few years of being away, and I
Mhm.
was walking around in Columbia Heights area, down by the Target and all the stores down there, and I saw a few of the dancers just dancing outside the Target, and I started taking a few pictures, and yeah, switched contacts with some of the dancers, sent them the photos, and then ever since then we've stayed close, we've stayed in touch, and yeah, we still shoot together, we still hang out whenever I'm in DC, and yeah, so the project is definitely ongoing, but it's been something that has over time has changed a lot, has taken on new forms, and has lived a few different lives since it started. Um, yeah, so there's a lot to it, but it was back in 2019 when I first really started the project, when I first met the dancers.
So let me ask you, is it like every year when it's time to put out the installations, is it the same original photographs or do you guys kind of do like some sort of updated versions? How does that part work?
Yeah, so I'd say there was a portion of the product where I was spending a lot of time photographing. Then there was a sort of a gap in the middle, in the past like 5 6 years. So that portion where I was really photographing for the first few years, that has been the work that we've really put out there, the most, I'd say, at this point. um, and that's the work that has fallen into, like the exhibition that I had in DC in 2023, or this public art installation that we have up now in DC. But there is a lot of work that I have not shown, which so last summer, sort of spring summer 2024, I did a residency for about 2.5 months at the Nicholson Project, which is it's an arts organization in DC, and they have a residency program there that's really really good. And if there are any artists out there who are from the DMV or have any sort of connections or ties to the DMV, I would really recommend applying to it. But it's because they give you a lot of resources. They give you a place to stay in Southeast. They give you a stipend that you can live on for the time that you're there, and really just focus on making your art. And I was really lucky because the project that I'm working on is a project that's based in DC. So it really gave me a home base for the time that I was spending in DC for those like 2.5 3 months, and I spent a lot of time working on the project during that time. And so I made a lot of work during that time that I haven't really shown um, a whole lot of. But I am, yeah, currently working, seeing what the next life of the project is going to look like, and hopefully it'll be a photo book. I would love to turn the work into a book of photographs. So that's what I'm kind of saving that work for. But there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot more.
That would actually be beautiful, a photo book. That sounds so interesting.
Yeah.
So, in terms of, I know you said you kind of stumbled on the dancers when you
Mhm.
first came to this, but what does, Beat Your Feet mean to you, even just beyond being someone that was born and raised in DC?
Yeah, there's like I mean, on its surface it's dance. It's a kind of dance, it's a kind of culture. And um it's important just because like of the beauty of the movement, and but on a deeper level, it's it is important because it represents a culture in DC, that's unique to DC, that means a lot to people in DC, especially to people who are from DC, and yeah, it holds a lot of importance, and it holds a lot of significance, um,
Mhm.
and it represents a culture that um, is not as apparent as it once was back in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. Um, for the folks that are watching this that don't already know, go-go music is a kind of music that came from DC, and this is a kind of and beat your feet is a kind of dance um, that evolved from came out of go-go music, and so it's something that is really pretty specific to DC and hasn't really gone too far out of DC. So it's really important that we have these dancers who are, keeping that sort of dance alive and keeping that culture alive. And Yeah, and just really just carrying it forward. A big part of what I've seen photograph like working on this project is that there are a lot of young people who are interested in dance in DC, and who the dancers that are in the photographs, and a lot of other dancers who practice beat your feet, they are doing the important job of teaching young people how to do this dance, um, and that's obviously a really important part of it, because otherwise who else is going to carry on the legacy
Right.
of this sort of DC history. Um, so yeah, I hope that answers your question. But really, that's like one of the really that's one of the most important parts, right there. Is that they the this culture is being passed on, and it is really important to people. And there's a lot of new people who are coming into DC, and and it's important that they learn that culture, that they come to DC and say, okay, this is a place where people have been for a long time. I'm not the first person to come here. I'm not gonna I don't want to impose myself on the people here who have their way of living, who have their way of communicating and expressing themselves, and who have their culture here. So I want to celebrate that too. um yeah.
I love that. No, that's absolutely true. And I love that, using art specifically as that form of, cultural preservation and just
Mhm.
also amplifying a broader message of just, Black boy joy and brotherhood. So can you talk a little bit about, how the arts can specifically have that lean of, focusing on a very local area, but still reaching a broader impact in its audiences?
Yeah, I'd say yeah, I mean, it's an important part of art in the first place, is to be able to it's a form of self-expression. And it can be used in different ways, obviously. There are a lot of people. I mean, I think a large part of this work is aimed at sort of inspiring some kind of emotion in people when they see it, and to make people feel something. You might not know exactly where it's coming from, but to make people really feel something. That's a big part of the work.
Mhm.
As uh, an art project. But then there's this other side to it, which is sort of the combination of documentary work, which is um, I have a more of a foundation in photography in the documentary area. But when you combine those two, it says something. I think it says something else, because you have this layer, sort of a documentary layer, where you're people are finding something out from looking at the work. Something real, something that's out there, something that this sort of dance that they might not have already known about. And there's also, writing about the work that I've done, or just speaking about the work. There are important parts, like how the dance is done, the other kind of dances that they incorporate with the dance, or where this dance comes from, the music that it comes from, and all this stuff. But then you have this other side to it, um, that's that's about you know Black boy joy, like you said. and seeing young black men experience parts of life that they are that we don't normally see. You know, experiencing joy first off, which is great. We don't see that a lot, but also experiencing you know sadness or anger or things like that that to other people out there feel like regular emotions, but when they see that in black men, especially young black men, they see it as dangerous or whatever it might be. But in reality, these are emotions that we all feel,
Right.
um, and they're important emotions. They're things that that can be processed and can be learned about and worked through. And so those are sort of things that I want to talk about and express in this project. And I think that to have these different layers of sort of documentary, the dance, and then we have um, these uh, these emotions, and just thinking about um, yeah, just black men and how we see them, how we see black men in as a society, as a culture. And we have this layer that's about like what does this work inspire in you, like what is the emotions that come out of it. And I think that, yeah, for any like successful um art project or piece of art, it's for me it's really about the emotions that I feel looking at the work, um on its deepest level, I think.
Excellent. So I'm curious to know, how did you choose where specifically to put your it's multiple installations, and even like a nightly video projection. So can you tell us, how did you decide where you wanted these photographs to be seen, and then talk about the video as well?
Yeah, so this was a big joint effort. There was a lot of pieces that came together and had to be um, coordinated. So I worked with the Nicholson project to put this installation together. So it was originally like I did this residency last year at the Nicholson project, and they came to me and asked if I wanted to have my work submitted to the DC Arts Commission for this public art grant. And I said, of course, this is important work specifically to DC. So I thought it would be a great idea. And then from there, we kind of worked out the best places to have the work be seen, and where the most people would be coming through, whether they're going to be downtown at work seeing the work up there, or whether they're going to be coming into DC seeing the work on the building like that. So this was a spot right here that was like is a busy road of people coming into DC, and also people, it's across the street um, from Southwest Waterfront. So there's a lot of foot traffic, a lot of people
Right.
um, who are from DC who go there for whatever reason. And there's also people who are visiting DC who are in that area. So we figured it was a great spot to to have the most visibility as we could, and also to yeah. And then we have a number of bus shelters that are around DC, and those are kind of sort of leading from this spot where we have the big installation on the side of the building to the Nicholson project, which is right across the bridge on like Pennsylvania Avenue. And so it was kind of leading there, so for like breadcrumbs a little bit. But but yeah, it's also a nice area where nice space where people can
Mhm.
you might be on a bus route from one place to another and see a few like consecutive pieces of the installation.
I think
Yeah.
that's I don't remember where exactly I was coming from, but I saw it, one on a bus stop sort of
Yeah.
area, and I was just like, "Oh, I mean, that's cool." Like,
Yeah.
DC. I didn't realize, like, there was an actual, like, theme, that there was a whole, well, of course, the whole
Yeah.
project, but then also just the importance that, it resonates with something that's a staple of DC.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, and I think, I wanna ask you, what do you think I know you mentioned wanting people to kind of get an emotion from
Yeah.
what they see. What do you think it can offer, native Washingtonians who might have grew up with Beat Your Feet the same way that you had?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. I think um I mean, first off, I want people to feel proud of the culture that we have in DC, and I want people to see that and feel like there's a piece of them represented there. I
Mhm,
think the most important part to me, the most exciting part, definitely, of this to me has been to see some of the dancers see themselves like on that scale, like Donnie, who's on the side of the kid who's on the side of the building. That photo was taken, I think, when he was probably like 15 or so, or maybe younger, maybe 13 or so, 13 or 14,
mhm,
and he's 18 now. So he looks a lot different, but him seeing this photo up there, he was like, his reaction really touched me. Like I felt really that made me feel really happy, and that was definitely those were the best parts of this project, is seeing their reactions to it and seeing how it made them feel, and that it um and yeah, that it made them feel really proud of themselves and dance, um and the fact that they're doing something really positive for the city, and really yeah, really carrying that culture on. I think, yeah, when it comes to dance, especially the kind of dance that they do, and public dance, and what seems kind of like a street dance, like when
mhm.
people see that on the street, they might look and be interested in it, but a lot of times there's kind of like passing by, that sort of thing. So it's really, I think it's like, to take a minute and be like, okay, hold up, this is really important, and to
Mhm.
have this like up, you know, on such a large scale, I think that was really cool to see, and I feel really grateful that they have, opened their arms to me as much as I have been interested in what they're doing. And in terms of everybody else in DC, yeah, I hope it gives people a sort of, makes people feel a sort of pride in the culture that we have in DC.
Definitely, definitely. And speaking of that culture, one thing that's evident with this project is it's kind of like that multi-layer of culture. You're seeing
Mm,
the artistry from your photography, you're seeing the dance, and even just the music that you mentioned stems from go-go.
yeah.
So can you tell me, how have you kind of seen that need sustain or increase since you first started the project, in terms of, highlighting that cultural scene and
Mm,
significance that we have here in the district?
yeah. I mean, so it's DC has changed a lot since I was a kid, and also the neighborhood that I grew up in has changed a lot over time as well. And when I come back to DC, and to visit, it's always a little bit different, and some ways that are positive, and some ways um, that are not so positive.
Mhm.
And yeah, and I see a little bit less of this stuff that we're talking about, this sort of culture, every time I come back to DC. And so I think it's part of, like, it's a little bit, um yeah, I think it's a little bit of like a pushback, a little bit of, let's like do something to counter that that sort of the displacement that we see in DC a lot. A lot of people are obviously, with gentrification, a lot of people are leaving the city, and with that displacement comes the displacement of the culture that people carry with them, and so it's important to keep that alive, and so that's why I think that this project is kind of urgent at the moment, because we do, like, we do that is a culture that is like being pushed further and further into the background
Absolutely.
as the years go by. And yeah, so I really, that's like definitely an important part of the project, an important part of the public art installation is to sort of keep that going in spite of gentrification, in spite of displacement.
Mhm. Excellent. Well, I would love if we could pull up these images again so everyone can get a taste of what they will be seeing until September.
Yeah.
Is as long as the installation will be out, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, September 28th, I believe.
Awesome. So is it around the same time every single year? Well, like,
So this is a one-time thing so
mm,
far. So so it's up until September 28th. So go see it if you can. But there's like different, yeah, like I said, there's like this product lives different, has lived multiple different lives.
mhm,
So whatever's, whatever opportunities come up next, I will be sure to put out there.
absolutely.
And they will always revolve around DC. So there'll be chances for everybody in DC to see the work, definitely.
Well, this is so exciting, and definitely we would love to follow up with whatever the 2026 version of Song of Suns looks like. But thank you so much for joining us today, Nate. Thank you for sharing that beautiful art with us that I hope people will start paying more attention to
Mm,
in those breadcrumbs.
yeah. Thanks, Jada. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah. My pleasure.